Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday. What day is it? 17th of October, the 290th day of the year. There are 75 days left in 2023, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. Well, the actors' strike against Hollywood that began July 14th continues, and it may not be settled before the end of the year. That would make the holidays pretty bleak for a lot of people. Latest bargaining round saw the union make its latest proposal, and according to news sources, the studio representatives did not even bother to counter. Quote, they just got up and left the table, unquote. The union's message to its members says, quote, it is with profound disappointment that we report the industry CEOs have walked away from the bargaining table after refusing to counter our latest offer. We have negotiated with them in good faith, despite the fact that last week they presented an offer that was shockingly worth less than they proposed before the strike began. That was last week, so we'll see what this week brings. United Auto Workers says its union will not expand the strike immediately against the big three automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. As that strike enters its fifth week, there are 25,000 people on those picket lines. 5,000 Kaiser Permanente workers walked off the job, and Southern California hotel workers are rolling strikes. So there's a lot going on in terms of labor and management in the country. Our G-List guest today is Jeff Hedrick. Jeff's a native of Western Maryland, spent most of his career in marketing and sales. He's a lead organizer for the United Food and Commercial Workers, which represents more than 16,000 men and women in Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. So let's see where we are here. Of course, our show today is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Creates the solution that fits your need. I was going to add a one word in here where it says we have leadership with always an impact. I'd say always a positive impact on the bottom line. So let's get to our roundtable regulars, Michael Walker and Barbara Wallace Edwards. Good morning, you guys. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning, Thom. Hi, Michael. How are you all?
I'm doing well.
Fine.
Good morning
How
to
do both of
everybody.
you?
I'm going well, thank you.
Doing well.
Barbara,
Yes, sir.
what's happening in your world?
Well, Thom, I've got a story for you all this morning that I couldn't believe. If you're living in the Savannah, Georgia area or traveling through that area, please be careful. There was a gentleman, Mr. Connor Cato, received the most expensive speeding ticket of his life for driving 90 miles per hour on his way home in September. He says a Georgia man was reeling after he was hit with a $1.4 million speeding ticket for driving 90 in a 55 mile per hour zone, speed zone in Chatham County. So that's the Savannah area. He said he was pulled over by Georgia State Patrol when he saw the mind-boggling amount on the ticket, $1.4 million. He thought it must have been a mistake. When he called to verify the amount, he was told that was correct, although that was just a placeholder on there, because anyone that travels more than 30 miles over the speeding zone has to appear in court. So they just plug that amount on the ticket. That's not the actual amount of the ticket, which is really weird. But yeah, they force you to come to court. So that's really interesting.
They could have given that man a heart attack or something.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
So he's not going to have to pay that. He don't know how much he'll have to pay until he goes.
Right. They said the
Score.
judge will actually decide the amount of the ticket, but it's usually somewhere no more than $1,000 normally, and usually less than that. But they just put that on there as a placeholder. It's like, why that amount?
It'll make you slow down. I tell you what.
Sure.
And that's probably what it was.
That's for
They
sure.
getting him to slow down.
Right.
All right, sounds good. What else you got, Var?
Well, also there's a former Alabama legislator who has received jail time after admitting to voter fraud. The gentleman was actually ran for office in a district where he didn't reside, but he got away with it because he rented space in another person's home, paying $5 a month for a 5x5 space, which is like a closet, just so he could run in that particular district. And of course, they found out about it. Found out he never even spent one night in that home. He never even crossed the threshold of that home. Once he realized that he didn't live in the district that he wanted to run in, he just went to someone that he knew and said, "Hey, I need to rent some space. Let's work out a deal." And rented a space for $5, and like I said, got away with it for a couple of months. But he was actually found out.
Well, I guess he might have took his cues from Tuberville, because he lives in a district that he doesn't. He represents a district that he doesn't. He represents a state that he doesn't live in.
I was gonna say a whole state, not just a district. Yeah, I'm sure he took his cues from
Nobody
Tuberville.
in that state has said a word.
Yeah, isn't that a shame?
Well, that's funny. You brought up Tuberville. You know, it's interesting. Tuberville fell down our airplane stairs last week. He had been poking fun at Biden and saying that every time Biden gets up or go downstairs, they think he's going to fall. So Tuberville was deplaning and had a briefcase and I think a luggage, and he slipped and fell all the way down the stairs on his tush.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of people making fun of that on social media.
I didn't see that. Yeah. I saw where our Secretary of Defense, who's an Auburn alum, was over in Israel.
Yes.
And, so I guess he's doing his job over there and trying to bring some sense to what's going on over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was quick to declare war. I'll put it that way.
Right. Way too quick.
Yeah. Michael, what's going on with you, bro?
Well, there are a couple things. We talk about the water supply and, making sure that we have clean water and plenty of water. Scientists have found a massive ocean beneath the Earth crust containing more water than on the surface. It's a huge supply of water that's 400 miles underground, stored in a rock known as a ringwoodite, is what it's called. And it was recently discovered it's stored inside this mantle rock, which is kind of like a sponge-like substance. It's a sponge state, and it's not a liquid, it's not a gas, they say, but instead it's the fourth state. Now, I guess that's scientist jargon. I'm not familiar with scientist jargon, but they say it's like a sponge that's soaking up water, and the structure of the ringwoodite allows it to attract hydrogen and trap water, which is what the geoscientists said. And they've been looking for this for decades, and now they've found this. So I guess the trick is to reach in there and try to figure out how you can bring that water out to help supply water. But it's interesting to find out that they have found this large body of supply of water that's beneath the Earth crust.
Where is it, Michael? Did they say where it's located?
They didn't say where it was located,
Okay.
So I guess they want to keep it a secret so some billionaires won't go out there and try and get it and then hike up the price and charge us for the water.
Exactly.
Because they'll do that.
You know it.
It'll be Elon Musk going out there drilling, trying to get it.
When you say beneath the Earth's crust, where is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where and how?
What is the Earth's crust?
How far below beneath the Earth's crust?
Well, they said 400 miles is what they said.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that's a lot of drilling down there, but we'll see what they do with that.
it's
Hopefully
interesting.
they can
I'd like to
tap
know how
into it.
they found that.
I don't know. They say they've been looking for it for decades. So it's
Wow.
a big find. So, you
Nice.
know, the US, I guess the US world, I don't know, they fund a lot of type of explorations and things
Right.
of this nature. And
Mhm.
this is one that they have found this water, and this scientist is really happy about it. He said, we are finally seeing evidence for a whole earth water cycle, which may help explain the vast amount of liquid water that's on the surface of our planet that we live on. So we'll see.
Wow.
They're really excited about this thing. So
Okay.
that's good to
Well,
know.
It's
keep
something to
us
be excited about if it's, if it works out.
keep us
Yes,
up on it.
absolutely.
We'll keep following it.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I see where
Um,
they slapped a gag order on you, buddy.
oh,
Uh,
Big Trump, I'm
yeah.
surprised it took that long.
You
You know,
guys, when somebody, who is that we were talking about, and Trump was talking about how much he weighed and stuff, and somebody said he looked like an egg with legs.
yeah, Trump told the people in the city of Atlanta he was 6'3", 215.
Yes.
In his
you
dreams.
you ain't gonna let him forget that either, are you?
That
Only
belly
in
is
his
215.
dreams. His head weighs 215, Mike.
Yeah.
Empty
I mean,
air.
Well,
I'm 6'1", 220, 225, and I look a whole lot different than he does. And he's supposed
No
to be 2
way.
inches taller than me.
Right. There's no way.
yeah.
Big
Well,
Trump.
what else you got, Michael? You following Jim Jordan?
But,
Has he found his coat yet?
Jim Jordan is someone that really just irritates me.
I
It's
think he
the look
irritates a
on
lot of
his
people.
face, that voice and that act, like he's some tough guy. It just irritates me. But it's so interesting how Trump has put his fingerprints in particularly on the Republican Party. And it's so ridiculous that a tenured professor by the name of Robert Mann of LSU, he is resigning. He is stepping down as chair of the journalism department at LSU because he does not want, well, first of all, he says he doesn't have any faith in the leadership of LSU department. And here's what's happening. A gentleman by the name of Jeff Landry just became governor-elect. And
So
supposedly he and this professor have had a difference of opinion from a political standpoint. And once he got elected, he's already called for LSU to fire this guy named Robert Mann, who's head of the journalism department. And so Mann says he's going to step down because he doesn't want LSU in the crosshairs of this. And again, he doesn't have confidence in their leadership. But it's some rift that's going on. And the key word in here is this particular guy had already been endorsed by one Donald J. Trump.
I was about to say, how do these people get elected? But I don't know. People do things in herds today.
Yeah.
The herd's going this way, so that's the way we're gonna go.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the leader of the herd is Donald J. Trump. That's the
I
big
guess.
problem right there.
Yes.
To think that he has some input in the education system at LSU. What gives him the authority or the credentials to decide who needs to be a professor or head up a department? And he can call LSU and tell them this guy needs to be fired. That's just ridiculous.
Well, it is, and the fact that somebody mentioned him for Speaker of the House is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's your boy Matt Getz and that whole crew down there that just totally has screwed up. We right now do not even have a Speaker of the House. Do you know no business can get transact
Right.
without having a Speaker of the House? You can't
Right.
even commit funding for different projects or what have you. We're just paralyzed because of your boy, Matt Gaetz, deciding that he wants to go up there and get rid of the Speaker of the House that we have because he worked with the Democrats to come up with a plan that everybody could sign off on. I mean, you were elected to go do the people's business. And some people think doing the people's business is representing a certain segment of the population where you just challenge everything. Now, it's okay to challenge something, but have something to offer in return of what you're challenging. They don't have anything to offer. They just challenge. We're not going to go with that. Well, what are you going to go with? You know, it is very easy to sit back and criticize everything when you don't offer anything yourself.
It's easy to be against everything. And what are you for?
Yes.
And, I don't think they know what they're for. I think they're just against pretty much everything that goes on. And you know how I feel about politics, and how I feel about the two-party system. But you know, it's if I saw this guy on yesterday, Republican guy, and his whole conversation was about the Democrats, but nobody ever asked him anything about the Democrats. He just asked him about these issues and these problems. And so he just goes in, you know, and you just blame it on those other guys over there. And to denigrate the people, whether you're a Republican denigrating the Democrats or vice versa, I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. And I think it puts our politics in a bad state. And in a lot of ways, well, I was going to say the local legislatures are asleep at the switch, but I think the people are asleep at the switch, you know, for voting for these people who, as you just said, aren't interested in doing the people's business.
Well, you know, you're supposed to be a problem solver. So regardless if I'm a Republican or Democrat, we're talking about issues that impact our constituents and the people of the U.S. So, Thom, if you offer something and I don't agree with it, I can say, well, I think there may be a better way to do it, or maybe we should look at doing this. I don't have to disagree with it and make it personal because you offered it up, you know. And if I'm going to say, well, Thom, I don't totally agree with that, I think we maybe ought to look at doing this, or this may be a better way. We all trying to get to the same point, supposedly, you know.
Or I've got something that I want to do. I don't totally agree with you on this issue, but I'm going to compromise and work with you on this issue because I got another issue over here that I'm going to need you, to compromise and work with me on.
Right.
But you have to be against them because they belong to this other party, and you poison that well with the people.
Yes. And I think that's the way it used to work, Thom. There used to be bipartisan, you know, they disagree, but they agree to disagree and work together on things. And that went away. And it's unfortunate.
When I grew up in Birmingham, our congressman, I think his name was Buchanan, he was a Republican. Mm-hmm. And after his term was up, the next guy that came in was a Democrat.
Right.
You know, and they had a very mixed population, probably 25, maybe 30% of it were Black people.
Right.
And so you couldn't just win with the Black people, with only Black people. You had to have everybody's cooperation,
right? Some
consensus from everybody, and we don't have that anymore because they've gerrymandered all these districts, and Black folks will win this district, and then we'll have all the white people win this district over here, and it's it certainly doesn't serve us very well.
Well, you know, Barbara, you talk about how it used to get done. There's many stories about when Reagan was a president and Tiff O'Neill was Speaker of the House. I believe in Reagan and Tiff O'Neill used to go back and forth, in public and stuff. But at nighttime, they go and meet at a place and sit down and have a drink and something to eat, and they figure out how to work together and get something done. And then
Right.
2 or 3 days later, they would have agreed on something, just what Tom's talking about, on how to move the country forward.
Right.
Now, people do not do that. They just get up and showboat for the camera. And, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about taking her AK-747 or whatever to the damn Capitol and doing all this crazy stuff. And people keep voting these people in.
Yeah, they do.
Hopefully she won't be again, but she's a total disgrace. I don't know how the people in Georgia even vote for her, but some of them maybe think the same way she does.
It's a segment of the Georgia population. And to be honest with you, when she was running, Don Bollier, who we had on our lobbyist for our association, he contacted me and told me, he's like, man, this lady named Marjorie Taylor Greene is running, and Republicans really don't want her. And they're trying to find somebody to run against her in her district, but they voted for her because she's a firebrand, she, speaks her mind and she represents them. And it's a shame to know that she represents people like that.
Exactly.
Okay. That'll continue to vote. Or where are we going with this? And you know what? I'm not promoting this. I'm not advocating this. But if somebody wanted to attack the U.S., it's a fine time to do that.
I know.
When we don't have a Speaker of the House,
right?
Everything is running in a chaotic mess.
Right.
Jim Jordan acting the fool.
Yes.
This is the perfect time to attack us. Okay.
I had a conversation with a friend this last week, and she was saying the same thing. She said there will come a time when we don't have to worry about our enemies. We're attacking ourselves, and we're setting things up for someone else to come in and basically take over our country, and we not be prepared to defend ourselves.
And a lot as you go about your daily life, and you go take care of your business. You see people, you speak to them. They're friendly, you're friendly, blah, blah, blah. And then you get home and you turn on the news and you realize, there's all this dissension, there's all this hate, there's all this anger.
Right.
But I don't know these people. I don't see these people every day.
Right.
Where are they? Where you conjuring them up from?
Right.
Yeah.
But and I guess a lot of it comes from our politics. I mean, you got Trump saying all that crazy stuff, and DeSantis saying crazy stuff, and Biden sleep. So
right.
He ain't saying nothing.
I was listening to Kamala.
I told you, Uncle Joe moving kind of slow these days.
Why? I guess I don't understand the and I don't follow it closely enough to understand, I guess, but why what are the issues with Kamala Harris? There just seems to be so much, not hate, but there's just a lot of.
There's a lot of hate. You can say that word.
And I can't figure out what she's done.
She's who she is. She's a black female, Tom. That's it.
Well, I'm sure that's a part of it. A lot of people not talking about what she's done is the fact they say that she hasn't done anything. But, being the vice president of anything is a very precarious situation because you're stuck in a situation where you're following the person that is the president and following their agenda. That's why you're in that position, because you agreed with their platform. Right. Okay, so if you're the vice president,
even if you don't, you can't say anything.
Right.
Exactly.
And I'm going to say, what vice president has gone out and done a lot of things? What did Pence do? What did Biden do when he was vice president? Really, they follow the president's lead. That's what their role is. That's what they should be doing.
Exactly. So I don't know if they're trying to say that because Biden seemed to be asleep at the wheel, so to speak, that she shouldn't take more ownership or be more front and center, but she's just following the protocol of what it
Right.
is to be a vice president.
Absolutely.
And as a vice president, you have to be careful not to usurp the president's
Right.
authority, you know,
Right.
and kind of follow that platform. So it's somewhat, just by nature of being a vice president, it's a difficult situation to be in. And then I guess, you know, whether people like your personality or whatever is totally different. But, you know,
And
the
then
thing about the government is you have all these different mechanisms in place. Okay. So you don't necessarily have to go in and tear it all up in order to be successful. You just kind of figure out how it works in the overall scheme of things in order to move the country forward. And you lead from that standpoint. You have advisors that are specialists in a certain thing. I don't get why it's so difficult.
Right.
I do think, as far as she is concerned, one of the big things, and Barbara mentioned this early on, but is the fact that she's just one step away from being the president of the United States.
True.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of people ain't got over Obama yet.
Exactly.
They're still trying to get over that. So
Yeah.
I that probably makes more sense to me than anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
You know, when what's Biden? I think he may have done a little more than most vice presidents when he was vice president, because Obama gave him substantive things to do
Right.
based on his experience from all those years in the Congress.
Right.
Right.
And so he was different. Now,
Right.
Yeah.
Pence didn't have much to do.
Right.
He was just trying to keep people from finding his ass on January the 6th.
That's the biggest role he had.
They were rushing him down that hall, and he was looking over his shoulder like, "Get me out of here." So I don't know.
Maybe.
It's a
Yeah.
good thing we can laugh about it.
Right.
Okay, you guys got anything else?
I have one last thing. Is you all probably remember Mary Lou Retton, who was
Yeah,
a darling
been
once
seeing
upon a
that.
time as an Olympian. She has been very ill for the last few weeks with a rare form of pneumonia, and she's still in ICU. And I think the thing that's so heartbreaking, at least for me, is the fact that her children had to go out and set up a GoFundMe page to
Yeah.
help pay for her medical expenses because she doesn't have health care insurance.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And
Is that what she doesn't have insurance? I just didn't know
Yeah.
if she could not afford it, but
no, she
yeah.
does not have insurance, is what they
Wow.
said. Her daughter said, you know, she doesn't have insurance and the medical bills are astronomical.
Now, didn't she go to the Olympics?
Yes, she won a gold medal.
If you go to the Olympics representing this country and you win gold medals for this country, then you ought to automatically qualify for
should.
somebody's health insurance.
Absolutely.
You know, the Olympics ought to have some. You know, if a politician can go up for 2 years and be a congressperson and have life insurance, have insurance
Right.
for the rest of their lives,
Right.
then I think Mary Lou Retton ought to have it.
I agree.
Well,
agree.
one of our viewers, William Wallace Smith, just said, "Is it true that she wouldn't take Obamacare?" I can't answer that question, but I would say
either.
this: in this day and time, there's no excuse for not having health care insurance, because you do have the ACA, or healthcare.gov, affectionately known as Obamacare. Not only that, there are other types of supplemental insurance you can get for critical illness. There are things that are available out there that you can get.
Right.
And
Let me say this. I'm going to say to Mary Lou Retton's daughter, if you're watching Tuesdays with Thom today, Michael Walker can get your mama some health insurance. Call him.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely,
Look him up.
we can make sure you have some type of health care.
Well, and we shouldn't laugh about it. I mean, but still,
Right.
I just feel like the Olympics ought to have some type of program.
You
that
would think they
help.
would.
Because a lot of the, again, I could be wrong, y'all correct me, but a lot of the athletes, that's their only job. I mean, that's their job. They don't
Yes.
a lot of them quit their job to do this athletic thing.
Right.
Right.
And it's
But she's been out of athletics for a while though, Michael. I mean, has she not worked in corporate America world? Or I mean, I think she wrote a book or something.
she wasn't she on the cover of one of the cereal boxes and stuff
Yes.
at some
Yes,
point?
yes.
Yes. She
That
did
ought to
all of that.
qualify for
I'm
something.
You
not
know,
sure. Yeah, that's
uh,
pretty.
I heard the mattress man from Texas. That's what they call him. He owns several, I think, furniture stores and stuff. He's the one that makes all these bets and win money and stuff like that, for bets. But I think he put up $50,000 or more or something like that, and said he and his wife remember Mary Lou, and they used to
Yeah,
follow
we
her.
all
And
do.
yeah, so he put up money. So they set up a goal of $50,000, and what I understand is it has far exceeded that
Yeah, I
goal.
think so.
But
Yeah.
but she is still in ICU. So
And what's the issue with her? What's her health issue?
she has a rare form of pneumonia.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And it's one that it was very dire there, and she was on a ventilator and all kinds of stuff. So my word is this: take care of your loved ones. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for them.
Right.
Don't leave the people that love you the most having to do things like set up a GoFundMe page to get you health insurance, or to, God forbid, and I'm not trying to be morbid, to bury you.
Yeah, yes.
How many
You see
times
that
do
all
we
the
have
time.
people that pass away and they have to pass the hat to do that? You
Right.
don't have to do that. Take some accountability. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Antley says his wife can get her some health insurance. So I assume she's in the insurance business as well.
Yeah, I think
So,
she's an agent as well.
okay. All right. Is that it?
That's it for me.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
guys. Well, let's well, I was going to ask you about Colorado. They lost the game the other night, and Dion was pretty pissed off about it because they were up 29. What is it, 29-0 at one point?
29-0 at one point. Yes.
Yes.
But I can tell you, in watching them, they ain't got an offensive line, man.
Right.
They can't block anybody. They can't run the football, which makes you one-dimensional. And so now they just got to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
And that turns the thing around. And when you can't run the ball, I don't care how big a lead you got, you can't run out the clock.
You can't protect the lead.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So, anyway, okay, well, let's move on. Let's see. Sean's with us. She's got a minute. Sean, you out there? You got a minute?
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute. It has happened, South Florida. It has finally happened. We got some cool weather, and I was so excited. I went over to the Starbucks and got a pumpkin spice latte, and I feel like I am living the life. Now, this morning's Got a Minute is for Mae Carol Jemison, American physician and the first African-American woman to become an astronaut. In 1992, she spent more than a week orbiting Earth in the space shuttle Endeavour. Jemison moved with her family to Chicago, where she was introduced to science by her uncle and developed interest throughout her childhood in archaeology, evolution, and astronomy. She also became interested in biomedical engineering and received degrees in chemical engineering and African American studies. In 1987, Jemison applied to NASA to become an astronaut. She was one of 15 accepted out of 2,000 applicants. After completing her training as a mission specialist with NASA, Jemison became an astronaut office representative with the Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral, Florida, working to process space shuttles for launching and to verify shuttle software. During that time in the Endeavour, she was the only African-American woman astronaut. After completing her NASA mission, she formed the Jemison Group to develop and market advanced technologies. I wonder if there is life out there after all. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. Mae Jemison is, and our friend Stefan Demings, who's been on with us a couple of times, are pretty good friends. So I'll tell him if he's not watching today that we talked about his friend Mae on the show. Thank you, Sean. So Hollywood's got the A list. Most of them aren't working. And here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. Our G-list guest today is Jeff Hedrick. He's a native of Western Maryland. He spent most of his career in marketing and sales. Right now, he's the lead organizer for the United Food and Commercial Workers, Local 27, which represents more than 16,000 men and women in Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia in grocery and retail, pharmacy, food processing, chemical processing, meat packing, manufacturing, cannabis, gaming, and public sectors. Let's welcome Jeff to the show this morning. Good morning, Jeff. How are you, man?
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. I've enjoyed the last half hour, and I wanted to comment about 72 times on the political discussion, so it was very enjoyable.
You're welcome to you. You got another 30 minutes, and it's your platform now.
Right.
So tell us this, and let me just ask this question. We talked about the actors union. We talked about the hotel people. We talked about the automobile people. Why is all this happening at this particular point in time, or is there a why for it?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it. But second of all, I think the answer to your question is that I think COVID taught people, especially younger people, that the value that they themselves have. And I think that is something that during that period of time, when grocery store workers are coming to work every day and risking their lives so that people can have groceries, people woke up a little bit, I believe. And right now, the idea of unions is more popular than it's been since 1965. A poll a few months ago said that 71% of Americans are pro-union. So I think that has to do with that idea, especially among young people, that they have actual value. I think that older people have always just sort of, almost kind of went along with what, they didn't look at how much a CEO was making, and they were just happy to have a job. And I think these people, like I said, people in their 30s and under look at it and go, I'm not going to work for that. I'm not making, there's states like Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee and South Carolina, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. And I think that for some people, that's not, they're tired of it, and they're not gonna put up with it anymore.
Well, it's an epidemic in terms of people saying enough's enough. And
yes.
I'm a member of the Actors Union, and
yes,
I can't blame anybody for what the issues are. And when you continually change the distribution system so that you're making more money and you don't want to share that, then that probably leads to a strike. After every 3 years or so.
Well, and what you just said is an example of the UAW auto workers, that they're only kind of striking small amounts of workers, only about 17% of the workers, or up to 25% of the workers are going to go on strike at a time until they can come up with a solution. But they asked for 40%. They asked for a 40% pay increase, which sounds incredible. But their argument was the CEO and the upper executives got a 40% pay increase, and they took sacrifices of their pension in 2008 when the auto industry was dying. The workers were the ones who sacrificed and took cuts so that the industry could stay alive. And so they figure if if the CEO of GM gets 40%, maybe I should get 40%. So
let me ask you this, and before we get to Michael and Barbara. So if workers feel as though they deserve, and I think that's the word they probably would use, is deserve more. And I think you may have just answered it. And I was going to say why now, but I agree with you. There was a time when unions were a bad word. And I've been on both sides of it. And, but I will say, as far as the actors union goes, if we didn't have the union, we wouldn't be able to make a living.
Right.
Just the way it's run, we wouldn't be able to make a living. I mean,
well, and I was going to say, I think what you were starting to ask is if people are so upset, why don't more people go on strike or join unions, and I think it goes back to exactly what you were talking about when you were talking about politics and why people vote the way that they do. It's fear. The unions have a good message: better pay, better wages, a better work-life balance, healthcare, for example, a pension. And employers have fear. Employers can scare workers into not wanting to potentially lose their job, or a threat that the company is going to close up and move to China, or whatever threats that they use. Companies in the middle of union, I just got out of a union election against one of the biggest companies and one of the biggest offenders that there is in the United States, Purdue, the chicken people. They hired union busters to come into the plant for the last month before the election. And that union buster spent 8 to 12 hours a day just working mentally on the workers, creating fear for them, telling them that they were going to go on strike, that they were going to lose everything they had. All lies, all illegal, but that's what they do. And all you have to do, just like in politics, is you just have to scare enough people and you win.
And you just have to keep telling the lie over and
Right.
over again, and then the lie becomes the truth.
Right.
That's true.
In some
Yep.
people's minds. Michael, Barbara, you got questions for Jeff?
I do. Good morning, Jeff.
Good
I
morning,
have
Barbara.
a question. Dollar General stores. I don't know if you have them in your area, but I hear
Every block.
repeatedly. Yeah, I was going to say, every week there's an article in the newspaper about the issues at Dollar General stores. And I'm sure you have union. I would hope that there's employees there that are part of the union. What is the union doing to help those individuals make sure that there's a safe environment?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. They are a big target for a lot of unions. For UFCW, it's food and commercial workers. So for example, Dollar General workers would be within our purview. It goes back to that fear issue. You have to find, in order to start a campaign, for example, you have to find people in those stores who are willing to put themselves on the line a little bit and talk to other coworkers. And the process, once it gets started, is really pretty simple. But you have to, you're basically what we call probing. It's kind of like prospecting for Michael, like in sales, where you're out constantly sort of making connections. And it's hard to go into a Dollar General and have a substantial conversation with a worker. But I believe, I mean, we always say that the Dollar Generals, there are so many of them. There are so many workers. They work so hard. They get paid so little. And not to just call the Dollar General out. It's a lot of retail, but they're a prime market and for unionization, because they could get better wages pretty simply and better working conditions. I know, like the Dollar Generals near me, if you're not ringing someone up, you're stocking, or, attempting to stock the shelves. And, after COVID, there used to be 6 people working in my Dollar General, and now there's 2.
I was going to say,
so that they have a hard time getting staff because they're not paying them.
Right.
And it's not a great, it's not necessarily a great, way to earn your money for 8 hours. And so, but those are the types of workers that we want to have conversations with and present to them how the process goes. It's pretty simple, and what they may be able to get, in a contract. And the important thing to say, I think, for people who are learning about unions is you only need 3 people. If you have a business and there are 3 employees, you can unionize. People think,
Right.
oh, we're not big enough to unionize, but 3 employees can unionize. And all you have to do is get a certain percentage of people at your workplace interested in being in the union. They sign a card that says that they give the union the right to negotiate on their behalf. The union files a petition with the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, and an election is scheduled. If during that election the union wins, then you sit down and negotiate a contract. Then the workers look at that contract, and if they feel like there's a good contract, they agree to it. They're not members until they agree to that initial contract. They don't pay any dues. They don't, anything like that. But it's a pretty simple process. It's just getting to people like those Dollar General workers and convincing them to not be afraid of the repercussions.
Wow.
I can tell you this: Dollar General's stock has just tanked, man.
Yeah. It should. There's a lot of liability lawsuits against them because or workers' comp injuries, tons of issues with their stores.
Yeah.
Michael?
Yes, Jeff, I have, I guess my question is kind of 2-part. The first part is, in negotiations between the union, management, what have you, how do you get to a point where you can reach an agreement without really crippling the company itself? Because there is a point where you can do that. And the other half of it is, how do you foster trust between the 2 sides to reach a negotiation that's going to be good for everybody overall?
Well, thanks for your question. And 2 parts. I believe that one of the things that I say when I talk to workers is, I'll say this, and if I were using you, and I know, you all are business people and have owned businesses, and so have I. If you and I had a business and let's say we had 25 workers, and we paid them a decent wage, we gave them decent health care, they made enough money that they could buy a house, that they could go on 1 week's vacation with their family a year, and they didn't have to worry about what happened when their family got sick. They would love us. They would think we were great employers. They would come to work every day, and they would be happy to work there. And so I think that's when you're going to a contract, that's really all that a company has to do is present a fair offer. And I think you can do that without crippling yourselves. This last contract that I was working on, at one plant of 46 people, the company grossed $500 million a year at one plant, 46 workers. So what I said is to the workers, you're an $11 million man or an $11 million woman, because your part of that business creates 11 million of that 500 million, just the work you do.
Wow.
You may just be a piece of the puzzle, but they gave those people a $200 bonus for the year, and they grossed 500 million. So I think the answer to your question is just for both sides to be fair and to look at, I don't think workers are asking for a ridiculous amount of money. I asked those workers there what they wanted as a pay raise, and they said $2 or $3. They didn't want $10. They wanted $2 or $3. And so I think that's the first part. And the second part of your question, the National Labor Relations Board has lots of laws, regulations, and policies and a system set up to make sure that people come to the table and negotiate fairly. If you don't come to the table and bargain fairly, and you're not bargaining in what they call good faith, then the NLRB can order a mediator, a federal mediator, to sit down and to mediate. And those mediations are just exactly what that word means. They usually are give and take and fair for both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's good. You know, most recently this summer, Big Brown went on strike, UPS,
Yeah.
and they had a kind of long drawn out strike. But once it was over with, the workers, I think they got everything they asked for, and
They did.
then all of a sudden the truckers went from making whatever they were making to like making over $100,000 a year and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that was all broadcast. And I think, you know, in that particular situation, I think it may have poisoned the well, so to speak, because now everybody think they can do what the UPS people did. And there were ads I saw saying, how do you get to a six-figure income? Go to UPS, be a truck driver, you know, because they were making, I think, $70,000 or somewhere like that. Now they're making over $100 and something thousand. But people have to realize it's a different type of industry, and there are a lot of different dynamics that go into that, you know. And good for the people from UPS to negotiate that, because I'm sure there are a lot of hazards on that job and things, because I remember reading where one UPS driver died in Texas because he was driving a truck that didn't have air conditioning, and you got 120 degree out there in that Texas sun, and they had to just keep pushing, couldn't take a water break or nothing like that, and he ended up dying. So it's a lot of things that go into that, but I think that also you kind of need to, for the lack of a better word, put a gag order on that stuff, because that can poison the well in other aspects.
Yeah, and I also think in that case, the UPS case, the media made the mistake of saying that workers got $150,000, and that included benefits. So that included their health care. And you all know, you pay out. I know that our benefits that I have through my union, I think they probably cost the union $35,000, $40,000 a year to pay for all of those benefits. So when they advertised it as $150,000, I think people thought that the drivers were literally making $150,000. They get paid well, but like you said, one of the biggest demands they had was just for some air conditioning. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So they didn't have air conditioning in the trucks?
No.
Right. Yeah. Don't you remember?
My goodness.
In the summertime, you see the UPS drivers wearing the shorts. You know, all the women talking about the UPS drivers wearing the shorts. That's why they're wearing shorts, because they have those doors open and it's just hot heat coming in there.
Wow.
It's not air conditioning.
I didn't realize that. I knew they wore shorts, and I saw that there were no doors or anything, but it just didn't make the connection.
Yeah.
I'm worried about them because they don't ring the doorbell when they leave packages on the porch and it's raining. And you go out there and your package is all wet up and everything. And it's like, when we were sitting right here in the house, just ring the doorbell and you can run off then, and we'll know somebody. And I'll stop. I said, hey, man, is it against the rules for you guys to ring the doorbell when you drop off a package? Oh, no. We'll ring the doorbell.
It's a good thing you weren't negotiating that deal.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'd have been a good one. So, Harvey, you got something else?
I do, Jeff. With all the benefits that the unions can offer employees, why would some people not take advantage of it? Is it dues? Is it the fear of the company retaliation? What type of things? Okay.
I think it's a couple things, and I think all of them are rooted in fear, as I was saying earlier, fear that you're going to get fired, fear that you're going to upset your manager, fear that your neck. One of the big fears that they pitched in this last program that I worked in was, you're never going to get a contract. The company said, we're never going to get you a contract. And what I said to the workers is, so what the company is saying to you is, we have no interest in getting our workers a contract, so you're just wasting your time. And so I think it's, and the other thing you mentioned, dues. There are lots of horror stories about dues. UFCW, it's about $8 to $10 a week, depending on where you're at. But some of the trade unions, the dues are really a lot higher, but that's because they also pay for them to go to an apprenticeship. And so the dues are a little higher, but it's easy to scare people into thinking they're going to go on strikes. It's that they're going to lose benefits, that they're going to, their boss is going to hate them for the rest of their career, and they're never going to get an advancement. They're never going to get a promotion. And, but really, I think what it really is that unions just have to do a better job of getting in front of people. Like you were saying, those Dollar General workers. I agree with you 100% that there ought to be union workers talking to every Dollar General in America. And there ought to be better ways to, I don't want to say market, but it is marketing. There are better ways to market unions and make people aware of them, because though I believe people have a positive opinion about unions, I don't believe that most people, especially just everyday working people, understand what a union is, what a union can do for people, and how that process works.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Michael.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to say that I've been involved in some union discussions in the past. When I was on the board of directors of MARTA, I ended up, because I was on the board of directors, that put me on the side of management. But
yeah,
I think the thing that I got the most satisfaction out of it is that the people that drove the buses, the rails, and the people that were part of the union, they felt enough trust in me to come to me and talk to me about some of their issues. And I was chair of operations and development. Nice. So I played a lead role in presenting the cases. And what I tried to do was be fair on both sides of it and present the positions from the standpoint of the union and how it make it better for them, and also from management to bring it together for the good of the order. And that was the way I did it. So it made me feel good that they felt, close enough to me and trusted me to come to me to voice their opinions and felt like I would do them right. And that's how I tried to govern. So,
and I think that you can do that, because we have, in Maryland, there is a meat processor, and their union, and they advertise themselves as a union. It's union sausage. It's, they have a great relationship with the union. And because at some point some of the owners had worked in unions before they were in that business. And so they decided it's not going to be a negative. We're going to turn it into a positive. And I think, some of the negatives sometimes is that once that contract is in place, then another thing that unions and just like businesses have to do is they have to do a good job of servicing. And so what unions need to do a better job of is, once a contract is in place, is doing what you just said, and that's talking to the workers and knowing what their issues are, staying on top of those issues and addressing them in a quick manner.
I agree. And in the South, what I have seen is, now my dad worked at a pipe plant, and they weren't unionized, but the company was fair, and they did things for all the workers.
Yeah.
Provided medical, provided all these things that they needed to have. And there used to be that kind of balance. You either were in a union or you were in a company that wasn't unionized, but they respected the workers and worked with the workers.
Right.
And then it kind of went the other way with the, I hate to just say the CEOs making all the money, but
it's just profit sucking, right? Just greed is basically what it is.
Right.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions, Jeff?
I was going to say real quick, you were talking about the South. And it's not just in the South, but there are 15 states that the minimum wage either does not exist, so they have to go off the federal minimum wage, or they have an equal minimum wage to what the federal minimum wage is, which is $7.25 an hour. Wow. If you went to work, and I did the math last night, if you went to work 40 hours a week and you make $7.25 an hour, you make just over $15,000 a year, which is within the poverty line for one person. So if you have a child, or you're a single mom and you have a child or two, you're working 40 hours a week just to still be below the poverty guidelines. And so, and then I come from a state where next year the minimum wage is going to be $15 an hour. And I look at the disparity between people at a Dollar General, for example, doing the same job and living somewhere where they are getting paid $7. They're getting paid half of what those people in another state are that are doing the same job. And I just think that something has to change.
Absolutely.
Michael, Barbara.
No, that's it.
Say thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. It's been great.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Let's acknowledge that Jeff is the father of Emily Hedrick, who works with us. And now you're going to have her coming to me telling me she's going to start a union.
Well, we only need 3 employees, so I don't know. Sorry, Thom.
Jeff, how's it that new grandson of yours?
It's amazing. I have a grandson and a granddaughter. I didn't have any grandchildren a year and a half ago, and now I have 2, and it's amazing. I know Emily has a great life in Auburn, but I sure do miss her and Jay and the baby, and I'd like to be able to snuggle all of them a lot more. So,
well, it sounds like you may be moving south, then, Jeff, because I don't know if you're moving that way.
Okay, well, thank you. That was great. Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate
Thank you.
Man.
Appreciate you.
My closing comments, or as I see it. Last week, I had the opportunity to speak to an honors class at Auburn University, something I've been doing now for maybe the last 5 years. As a matter of fact, I do 1 class a semester, and then my wife does one as well. We enjoy the students, and they enjoy us. The class is taught by our friend Sam Johnson. It's a life skills class, and the students explore how to become the best version of themselves as they continue through life. There is some personal history being shared. There's life tidbits being shared. And in this class, last week, there were many, many questions from the students. When I mentioned my high school integration experience was a much more fully integration experience than my college integration experience, which was more of an assimilation experience than a full integration experience, one student wanted to know why. That led us into a deeper discussion of true integration versus cultural assimilation. Cultural assimilation is defined as the process in which a minority group or a culture comes to resemble a society's majority group or assimilate the values, behaviors, and beliefs of another group, whether fully or partially. It was a great class. We had a wonderful time. I was going to say I hope the students enjoyed it, but they certainly acted as though they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it as well. So thank you for that class. Thank you, Sam, for allowing me to come to the class, and thank the students for welcoming me and supplying me with questions. And that is how I see it on this October the 17th in the year 2023. That's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We always appreciate you. Thank our G-List guest, Jeff Hedrick. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it for this October the 17th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you got one, you got an extra smile, give it to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.